Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. If you missed any parts of this program, go to richdadradio.com. All of our programs are archived, and I think this is an important, session to listen to because it's about ethics, legal, ethical, and moral. And it's a very important subject, especially today. And our guests today are Ken McElroy, founder of MC Companies, the Rich Dad Advisor, and author of The ABCs of Real Estate Investing. For those of you who want to invest in real estate, invest in this book first. It may save you a lot of money, pain, heartache, and misery. And Ken can be reached at mccompanies.com, mccompanies.com. And our very special guest is Alex Brigham, Executive Chairman and founder of Ethisphere Institute, the world's most recognized authority in research, rating, and certification of corporate and institutional ethics, anti-corruption, and sustainability efforts. And very important subject. Today's website is ethisphere.com, ethisphere.com. And so we're now going to a very popular part of the program. It's called Ask Robert. And if you would like to ask us a question, simply go to richdadradio.com, Ask Robert. And if we answer, it's very popular. We'll do our best to answer your questions. But anyway, submit your questions. So, Melissa, what's the first question today?
Thank you, Robert. Our first question today comes from Dominic in Los Angeles. Favorite book, Unfair Advantage. Dominic's question is this: how do you vet your partners so that you avoid bad partners?
That is a tough question because Ken knows my track record on that's pretty bad. I mean, I've had some, I hate to say it, dishonest partners, and it took millions of dollars to get rid of them. Just a handshake at the start, and then success killed the partnership. I think if we had failed, we'd been still friends, but the moment we became successful, I think greed set in and all this. Yet, let me give you a bit of hope and ray and all this, because it's hard to tell until sometimes afterwards. You can have your codes of honor, you can have your mission statements, you can have all that stuff, but you don't really know because you can't see everything they're doing. But the glimmer of hope in all this is that out of every bad partnership comes good partners. In other words, every broken deal, I've met good people. And Ken was an example of that. I mean, I met you out of a very bad partnership, right?
Yeah. I would also say that I think a lot of people rush into partnerships quickly, and I think that there needs to be a great deal of due diligence around their character, who they are, how they, what they've done in their past, and also the words they use. I think a lot of people don't pay attention to that enough. You can, with the words they use, you can identify quite a few things.
Can I tell you the word this partner and her husband used?
Let me guess, I?
Yeah, and we're the most ethical people we have the highest of integrity.
Yeah.
They said we have high integrity, and my red flag is if I have to tell you I have integrity, I probably don't.
Yeah.
So when I hear integrity company this and integrity shoes this, I get a little suspicious. What do you think, Alex?
It's a huge red flag. I mean, my mother used to tell me growing up, the more someone talks about how honest they are, the closer you need to watch your silverware.
Yeah. And the more somebody gets defensive about how integrity they are, ethical they are, you insulted my integrity. I said, Jesus, because integrity means whole. That's all it means. If something is whole and holds its shape, is it whole? And if it is insulted, it should bounce off. But if it affects you, maybe something's out. Anything else about how you find good partners?
Well, you do want to, it's like finding a good employee. You do a lot of due diligence on who they've worked with before. Talk to enough people, the patterns will come out. But hey, I've had problems too in the past, Robert. And the big thing is if you ignore the red flags that you knew were there intuitively and you try and justify them away, you might find yourself in a real hole.
What do you do when you find out? Because it took me about 8 years. We're 8 years working together in the same building we're broadcasting from. Everything was happy, hunky-dory. Get this bad feeling in my stomach, but there's no proof. Do you know what I mean? There's just no proof that anything is wrong. But we go on for about 8-10 years, and all of a sudden it blows up. And then at that point, we had to go to lawsuit to get out of it. So it was one of the most painful experiences of my life. Right? I mean, if you haven't had a lawsuit yet, they're painful.
I think you got to call it early.
But I didn't know what to call. Do you know what I mean? There was no evidence.
Yeah, I know. But I, for example, I have an employee right now that hasn't been with us very long, but the signs are showing up, and I'm aware of it, and I'm going to call him out on it. And
How do you do that? What's a call out to you?
well, to me, it's
Call them into the office?
How long have you worked here? Not counting tomorrow.
Well, I've heard a good mentor of mine has said I've never regretted firing someone too soon. So you do. I agree with Ken. You really want to call this out early. You trust your intuition and start looking deeper.
The saying I have is hire slowly, fire fast. You know what I mean? But I don't always follow that on
It's the same with a partnership. You know, you got to call them out early, and the pain's going to get greater over time.
So, Melissa, what's the next question? I trust that answers your question, and thank you for the question.
Our next question comes from Cindy in Kansas City. Favorite book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Cindy's question is this. I work for a company where I see unethical conduct regularly. I have raised the issue with my supervisor, but nothing has changed. I need my job. Should I just go along to get along?
That's another really tough question with no real specific answer. But what do you think, Alex? Because you work with so many companies on that, right?
Well, and if it's a big enough company, yeah, we do. I mean, and very commonplace for larger companies, 100 employees and up, is to have an anonymous whistleblowing channel. Where people can actually send an anonymous email or anonymous phone calls, and there's a lot of companies have that in place. So I've checked first to see that was in place. Second, I think it's fair to raise the issue, but anonymously. She needs to protect her job, but she wants to feel like she's taken action for her own moral system and for the company's benefit as well, and find a way to bypass the supervisor anonymously to one level up, or maybe even to the CEO's office. Because again, if it's forward-looking at all company, the CEO will have a channel to be reached if they care about this sort of stuff, and will probably appreciate the sort of
call it a hotline?
Yeah.
Do companies have hotlines?
Yeah, thousands of companies have hotlines.
What does a hotline look like? How does a hotline in?
Usually, what it is, there's companies out there. There'll be a 1-800 number that's staffed, and you call in and you just identify the company that you're working with. That it's been a service, and the company said we've signed up for the service, and it'll be a call center. I mean, there'd be one here in Scottsdale, for example, probably with hundreds of employees answering phone calls, and what you get is a case number. And you can call back and continue to talk anonymously about that case number, but you never have to divulge your identity. So that's something, if the CEO cares at all about having ethics in their company, again, tone from the top, even just encouraging for that type of hotline to be put in place so this sort of dialogue can happen is a good first step.
Kenny, because the trouble of being the entrepreneur, the founder of the company, a lot of times people are afraid of talking to you.
Well, most of the time.
Yeah.
That's the thing, and I think Alex brings up a really, really good point. The one thing that this person should make sure of is that the CEO isn't that way. Because if the CEO is that way, then for sure it's not going to change.
Right.
Yeah, well, look at, in small business, a lot of times we don't have those hotline services and all that. I'm just saying, from what's about myself, do my employees feel safe enough to talk to me? And the answer is no. Most of the time it's no. So I don't know how to handle that, because I'm going, and I do my best when I hear something, like I just had something inside my company. They said I was accused of not following our code of honor. I said, what? Explain it to me. And then I called a company meeting, which I explained the whole thing there. But if I don't address it, then it gets worse inside my company. But I do my best to be open to criticism or to be called out. Right? What do you think, Alex?
Well, Robert, sounds like these hotline companies might be calling you. They're very inexpensive services. A few $100 a year. It might be something. It's one more. You cannot give your employees enough channels to raise issues of concern, because if you don't, they're going to go put it on the internet and raise it with everybody.
Right. That's a good point. The last thing is inside your home. You have a hotline inside your home. Does your husband, wife, your children feel safe to talk to you? And I think that's another really tough question. We had this one guy who was talking about Gen Y, and I says one of the problems today with parents is they want to be a child's friend, not their parent. And it says being a parent is not being popular. And we have this big problem, like if you're too tough on your kids, and the teacher says, well, you're abusive to your child, and all this kind of stuff going on. That's not easy being a parent even, right, Kenny?
I think you're right. Kids need structure and
rules.
Yeah, and they need love, and it's actually not that complicated. My experience has been, if you have an open line of communication, and and you're consistent, it works out.
Yeah, but not every kid has that luxury, or every wife or husband has that luxury. So again, it's a very important subject. I want to thank you all. Thank you for being part of us. There's no answer to this, but I think we've got some ideas how you can handle things, be open, I know I have to look at it, and the question is, does Kim feel safe talking to me? Do my employees feel safe talking to me? And the answer in many questions is no, they don't. You know, my friend works for another company, and he brought something up to his supervisor. He was fired. I mean, he said, how dare you say that? Boom, he was gone. And he thought, I thought the guy was my friend. I said, no, he's not. You just do as you're told. So ultimately, it comes down to you. You know, are you open to feedback? And if you work for an organization that's not, maybe you should look for something else. Final words, Kenny?
Well, I think this is a great topic, and I'm just really happy to have Alex here. You know, we've been friends a long, long time, and the funny thing is I actually didn't know this much about your business, so it's great because you know he's a pretty humble guy, and but he's done a lot, and
his work speaks louder than him.
So it's great. Great.
Alex, thank you. Final words.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here and happy that we're having this dialogue because this dialogue wouldn't exist 10 years ago. And as you pointed out at the outset, Robert, this is really important for ourselves, our industry, and our country to be talking about this stuff openly. So thank you.
Thank you. And once again, if you have any questions, go to Rich Dad Radio, go to Ask Robert, and submit your questions. I thank you all for listening.
You've been listening to the Rich Dad Radio Show with Robert Kiyosaki. To learn more about the good news and bad news about money, go to richdadradio.com.